Welcome back, everyone. Mean or central measure is not sufficient to give us the right idea about a certain population or sample. So we need a different type of measure here, and we call this measure standard deviation. So what is a standard deviation? Standard deviation is a measure that is used to quantify the amount of variation or dispersion of a set of data values. In other words, this measure shows us how data are dispersed further or closer to the mean. And a high standard deviation indicates that the data points are spread out over a wider range of values. Let's have a look at these three charts. Start from the one in the left. Standard deviation in this chart in the left is low. That's why you see this narrow or tight curve, because most of the value are dispersed close around the mean, which is in the middle. And in the middle chart, we have a medium dispersion for the data around the mean. That's why the curve here is wider compared to the first one. And finally here, on the right chart, standard deviation is high, and we see how data are dispersed further from the mean, which is in the middle. So by looking at these charts, you can simply know how big is your standard deviation, and that's why data visualization is very useful. That can tell us how our data is dispersed around the mean. And to find the standard deviation, we need first to find the variance. And variance is nothing but the squared of standard deviation. And we have two symbols for the standard deviation and variance. Sigma is for population and S for sample. So simply we can say standard deviation equal the square root of the variance. And the same thing here exactly, but we replaced sigma by S because this is a sample. Variance for population can be calculated by subtracting the mean from each value in the data set and square each result that you got. Find the sum of these values and divide them by n, and n is the total number of the population. And find the square root of the variance to get the standard deviation. Variance for a sample is very similar. The only change here, we are subtracting 1 from the total number of the sample. You see here n is in lowercase to indicate this is a sample. And in the next tutorial, we will see practically how to calculate the variance and standard deviation in a sample and a population. So stay tuned.